about them Irish?
I can't take it anymore. I need a national championship.
This is the Four Horsemen podcast.
Notre Dame versus Alabama in the college football playoff. Is that possible? Before we get into that, though, let's talk about Notre Dame's absolute spanking of Virginia, and I'd like to bring with you guys today an important guest, Tim Flynn, saving the day once again as Steve is in Tampa. Tim, how are you?
Great. Doing great, Dylan. I'm on a train.
And where's this train going to?
It is going to New York City, and it is powers off right now. It's hot in New York City. We are going to watch the Notre Dame Fighting Irish do what they've done to every team they've played this year that wasn't in a MAC conference, and just absolutely throttle them.
So, like our forefathers of old, like many Notre Dame fans, you are taking a train into New York City to watch Notre Dame play Army at Yankee Stadium.
That is correct. I feel like Newt Rockne.
How fired up are you right now?
I'm really hot, so I'm pretty fired up. Temperature-wise, emotional-wise, also fired up. I had this one kind of circled because I wanted to take my grandfather there because he's a big Yankees fan and a Notre Dame fan, but he's up there in age and he hates the cold weather, and that was a hard no. So he didn't want to sit in the bleachers for the 40-degree game this is going to be.
Fair enough. I mean, you and I are Red Sox fans, aren't we?
Yeah. Don't worry,
Perfect.
We'll start a Yankees suck chant while I'm there. So at some point, I'll try to.
That's all I wanted. Let's talk about Virginia, man. What are your thoughts on that football game that happened?
It was not the best game I've ever seen. It wasn't the worst. It was pretty sloppy. The refs were the refs from the ACC as they are. I don't remember who the head ref was, but I assume it was Mike Roach because he's usually pretty bad. That's really, you could summarize the whole game by saying bad refs, sloppy play, Notre Dame still wins convincingly, and that's all you would need.
I thought that game could have been way worse than it was. Like you touched on, the refs kind of held Notre Dame back at least 7 points going forward, and then they gave Virginia 7 points with that ridiculous call that was ruled a catch when it was completely not a catch. What were your thoughts on that? You weren't at this game, right?
I was not at this game. I've seen enough absolute ass whippings this year. I didn't need to drive 7 hours to see another one. But for those of you that haven't heard about this call, let's just talk about what happened. That long catch by, I forget the guy's name from Virginia. It was not a catch, but they called it a catch. They ran a hurry-up play so they get the ball off. The refs told Marcus Freeman that they were going to review the play, and then they never did. Just more ACC referee horse shit. And I think we've grown to just kind of live with it, but it's ridiculous that this is happening, and it's not getting enough attention. So that's my thought on that. The rest of the game, as you said, pretty convincing win. I forgot what you just said because I'm still thinking about how mad I am about that referee not stopping the clock there to review the play. What'd you say?
Well, it was complete bullshit, right? The ACC refs were not doing a good job by any means, but it wasn't just that too, right? Like Notre Dame played really good football. I thought it was one of our better games. There was things to clean up for sure, but at least in that first half, I thought we were pretty dominant. Defense looks great as ever. I don't know if it's humanly possible to get better defensively than what we're at, and we're doing it without Benjamin Morrison, which is super encouraging. The run defense has gotten better with Riley Mills and Howard Cross just stepping up their play, although Howard Cross is going to be out for a little bit. Hopefully he's back soon. But yeah, there's not a lot to say. I thought the offense was a little inconsistent, but at the end of the day, we still put up nearly 40 points, and we should have covered, but, garbage time points from Virginia there. Any thoughts on anything else with the game, Steve, or maybe senior day as a whole? The broadcast
first
team
off,
being...
I'm Tim, not Steve.
Oh, Jesus. Man, I'm sorry about that. I
Don't
thought
ever
you
do
knew
that
it's
with
an
a girl.
insult towards you or Steve. Yeah.
Probably Steve. I'm beautiful. So with a spread cover, we did cover the spread if you got in the line early enough at 20.5. I don't remember what the game time spread was, but it was still, that's their thing with that offensive performance, not being able to move the ball until we had 154 yards of penalties on one drive, which was crazy. To have back-to-back penalties wiping off massive 75, 70-plus touchdown runs. The offense has to do better. Like, I think there was 10 possessions in the first half or something like that, and you should have scored 70 points on Virginia with 10 possessions. Like, that's crazy. We only scored 35. We just weren't too many drops. So many drops again this week. We're leading the top 25 in drops, or we're tied for first, but we also don't throw the ball as much as anyone else. So our drop percentage has got to be way higher than anyone. And I don't know. Our receiver room looks good. I don't know why they're not catching the ball like on paper, but they're just not. I don't know if it's lack of focus, if it's they have bad gloves on. I don't know what it is, but it's got to stop.
Does it give you some encouragement, though, that Notre Dame's issues this year are kind of fixable in the sense that here are the things lately. It's been drop passes. That's a coachable thing. We can improve on that. The other thing, too, is third down success rate has been pretty horrible for Notre Dame this year. I feel like that's just bound to get better, right? Like, we've been putting ourselves in pretty rough situations third down-wise with long distances, but I think as this team gets better and gets more to the rhythm of things, I'm encouraged by the fact that that stat will get better, and penalties have been the third one. So two coachable things and something that I think is just bound to get better. I got high hopes for this offense, and I don't think we've seen its peak yet. I think it's going to keep getting better as we head into the playoff.
I hope so. I think the third down conversion, I don't know if this counts as not or not, but if you pick it up on fourth down, you didn't convert on third down, so that's going to hurt. And we have a good fourth down conversion percentage when we're actually going for it. So I think there's a lot of times when on third down, we're just getting to within a yard or two, and then we're doing QB power and picking it up. But when we have third and long or third and 5+, we've never picked those up in the past 3 years, 4 years. It's just something Notre Dame hasn't been able to do, and it's been because of no downfield threat, no a quarterback that can't throw the ball in general. Not saying anything bad about our current quarterback. I love him so much, promise. I've never said anything bad about him in my life. But that's our problem. Is just on third down, you gotta find a way, and we're just not doing it when it's those long distance situations. It's almost like if you get to 3rd and 10, you already know the drive's over.
Yeah, I think the last time we've been good at third and long was the 2018 Clemson game, where Ian Book just went off in the first half and saved that offense that was not playing well. It's been an issue, like you said, and hopefully just by getting better with the penalties and the drops, we can put ourselves in better positions there, because I think Denbrock has done a pretty good job. Actually, let me ask you about that, Tim, and not Steve. What are your thoughts on Mike Denbrock so far and the job he's done as the offensive coordinator?
I think he's done magic, absolute magic, to come in with a freshman, almost an entire freshman line. That you have guys dropping, you've got great running backs, you've got new receivers, like everyone's new, actually, new running backs, new receivers. I mean, not entirely new for running backs, but they weren't playing last year as much, at least. And then you've got a new quarterback. It gets an entirely new offense, and you had to put all these pieces together and hold them together. And there's a lot of flaws that he has to deal with and work around too at the same time. So he's calling great games, and there's guys getting open, and there's definitely a little bit of a lack of execution, but he's putting them in the right places at the right times. And I think if everyone on the offense executed every play, which this was on Tim Priester's podcast earlier this week, where Freeman said he doesn't care about the result of the play. He wants all 11 players to do everything perfect on that play, and then let the results speak for themselves. And Denbrock said that's really hard to do. It's almost impossible. But if you can get 10 out of 11 guys doing, or even half, doing the right thing, and then this other half not having illegal hands to the face, which that was a tough. I don't know how you don't hit him in the face there when you're trying to block two dudes at once for that one play that happened. Then you're going to have good success. And he's definitely, like I said, he's put them in the right spots to succeed. It's just got to be a little tighter on the actual player's part.
Well, the offense has been inconsistent, and still we're putting up 38 points per game. So I'm under the impression that this is only going to get a lot better as Mike Denbrock gets to implement his system and his guys, and it's an entirely new receiver group, pretty much, right? Like, we haven't seen a ton of Jaden Thomas, who got hurt last year anyway, and then Greathouse and Faison are kind of the only two guys that are substantially getting snaps here. I thought Jaden Harrison had a great game, a real breakout game for him, 2 weeks in a row now.
The one thing that I wanted that you just made me think of was in the past 5 years, this is a question for you. In the past 5 years, how many times a year have you said that was an awful play call versus this year?
Very rarely. Like, very rarely have I said that. There's been a few, maybe, shit, just like punch it in from there, but compared to other offensive coordinators, especially Tommy Rees, who I liked, but, I didn't think called the best games. Very few, man. What about you?
Exactly. The play calling has been on point all season. We haven't been, what are we doing? There hasn't been a picture or a gif of Denbrock in the booth saying, do your damn job or do your effing job or whatever he said. It's just been working. It's been working, not perfect, but it's been working, and we're winning games. The one game we didn't win was, we don't have to talk about it, but that wasn't because of bad play calling either.
Yeah, that was the Riley Leonard game. He's been much, much better since. But yeah, that was a rough game. Tim, do you have a Horseman for this one? We try to pick an MVP every week.
Man, just because he was so much fun to watch this week, I kind of want to say Xavier Watts. But but at the same time, I'm also thinking Leonard. You know what? I think Leonard gets it. Just because he came out of nowhere, really, like, to just all of a sudden just shine like that. And of course, I'm talking about Leonard Moore, not Riley Leonard, just to make that clear.
You had me fooled there for a second.
So who's your Horseman?
For me, it's going to be Jeremiah Love. 2 touchdowns, over 100 yards rushing. He was averaging like 8 a carry, which is just ridiculous, man. Like, the running backs are so good, but so much of that has to be attributed to the offensive line, which is interesting because, like you said, they're basically a bunch of freshmen or injured people that lost their jobs and are replacing the injured people. And they're doing great. So Joe Rudolph's doing a hell of a job there. Pass protection is a little bit of a problem, but run game, been great. Like, it's going to carry us. And I know we all agree Michigan did not win a national championship last year. That never happened. Fraudulent. However, to the extent that they did go undefeated, that was on the back of a really good defense and a really good running game.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
what this team
and
is.
I think we're kind of, we're the same way, except we don't know what plays they're calling. If you want, I could try and sneak into the Army locker room and maybe steal some signals. I don't know if that's treason or not because it is Army, but I'll do it if I have to.
Well, just ask Central Michigan to be the broker, and maybe they'll let you. Here's the thing, too. Michigan last year, J.J. McCarthy was a better passer than Riley Leonard, but he was nowhere nearly as dynamic of a game impactor as Riley Leonard. Like, J.J. McCarthy, solid quarterback, did his job, could use his legs for sure, was good with the arm, but he wasn't. Michigan's offense wasn't J.J. McCarthy, right? It was the offensive line and Corum and Edwards that were just running it down your throat. Riley Leonard, for all his faults, is a big-time game influencer. You have to plan around him because he will beat you with the legs he can, as he's developed throughout the year, been able to beat you in the air. So I think in many ways this Notre Dame team not only has the same kind of framework as that Michigan team, but has the ability, I think, to actually be more of a problem offensively. So just saying, we were in an era where passing was everything offensively, and we're starting to kind of swing pendulum-wise, where a good run game is becoming really important to win a national championship again, and I think that suits Notre Dame just fine.
Yeah, the everything you just said, I couldn't agree with more. I think the running game is really our bread and butter. And Riley Leonard definitely complements it because of his ability to at least threaten the run, especially in the red zone. I don't think we could have a better red zone quarterback than we have with Riley Leonard.
Yeah, this red zone team is, on both ends of the ball, really good red zone team. It's with all the running success, especially between both the backs and the quarterback. It's frustrating that there isn't more passing opportunities. Like, we should be a little more explosive. Like, there should be more deep plays to Jaden Harrison, like last week, that was called back on the touchdown play. That should be happening more. So, like you said, it's a bit of execution. But I feel like I really like where this team is headed as we enter the final stretch of the season, which is crazy to say because it feels like college football started just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I think UVA was not a trap game, but trappy. Because it's senior day, it's right before you go into Yankee Stadium on a 100th anniversary hyped up Shamrock Series game against a ranked opponent for the last. We played Wisconsin. I think they were ranked in that Shamrock Series game, but usually these games aren't ranked.
Yes.
I still don't have.
We're undefeated
there's always
for
that
a reason in these games.
Yeah, there's always that 1%. Like maybe we could drop this one, but I don't see how they don't show up to this game. Next week after that, I'm concerned they might be tired from traveling so much and kicking the shit out of Army so badly that it might be too close for us to really love. But we'll see how we feel next week. But I think that's my only concern is how is this game going to impact next game? As a fan, Notre Dame players and coaches, you better not be thinking that way.
No, that's fair, and I think Freeman's done a good job of not letting them think that way too, right? Like I had tweeted from the podcast account, kind of paraphrasing something he said from the presser, where he was like, this is the biggest game. I'm not holding back plays because I'd be signaling to my guys that this isn't the most important game, and how are they going to prepare right if that's the mentality we have? And I think that's such a great thing. Freeman is really improved this year. Like, we've seen it every year as a coach, but I think this third year, he's done such a great job bouncing back from NIU. And for the first time, maybe in my lifetime, Notre Dame is routinely blowing out teams. Like, that has not been an issue for Notre Dame in a while. Like, they are demolishing the teams they're supposed to demolish and beating good teams by more than people would expect them to. So I think that's going to carry into next week. But anything else we want to talk about regarding the Virginia game?
I want to talk about what you just said, how it's the first time in your life that we're routinely blowing out teams. I feel the same way, dude. I've been like, I can't, where's this been? Like, the Brian Kelly was always do enough to beat them, like by a few points or whatever. And, and at the same time, I still feel like this offense isn't reaching its full capability. Even when we net Purdue game, I thought we're up 35-7 at halftime, and I thought that was the worst offense I've seen since the week before. Like, I was not happy at all. But the results speak for themselves. So I mean, that's why I can't express my anger, is because I'm like, I can't be mad when we're actually winning and blowing these teams out, but we gotta tighten it up so we can just blow out everyone. If we had if our guys were doing what they should on offense, we would have won 70-7 last week. And we would probably beat Georgia, Bama, Oregon, anyone in that top 10, probably like 40-17 if the offense did everything right. Like, there's no one on this in the college football world that's as good as us right now if we do what we have to do.
Yeah, well said. I think that's a good segue, actually. Let's talk a little bit about those top 10 teams, because this week the playoff rankings come out as they do now, and Notre Dame is 6th. They are the 8th seed because 2 conference champions that are ranked behind us will get byes. And we're scheduled, at least projected, that's probably a better word here, we're projected to play Alabama at home December 20th or 21st. What are your thoughts on that, Tim? Because I think we win that game. Am I crazy?
Well, my biggest concern and my biggest thought is, no matter what, that game better be on the 21st, not the 20th, or I'm going to lose my shit if we play on a Friday night instead of a Saturday night. That's one. That's the most important thing. Two, I don't think Bama's going to make it there. It is fun to think about. So let's just put ourselves back in a fan moment for a second. Like, the retribution of after getting shellacked 13 years ago in the national title game to then bring them into our home when they're down. Like, they're not having a Bama year like they normally do, new coach, and then just absolutely unload on them. Because you know that with Notre Dame, I'll tell you what, the tickets haven't even come out yet. I'm a season ticket holder for those that don't know, so I get access to season tickets, and I bought as many as I could. I think that game might already be sold out, and the tickets aren't even on for sale yet through just the lottery systems and everything. Because everyone I know that is a season ticket holder has bought extra tickets even if they normally don't. They did for this one. That stadium is going to be 100% green, except for that one little corner where they're going to have, I think it's 1,500 tickets we give the other teams or something like that, of red up the corner
And
there.
nobody
it would
is
be
selling.
insane.
Yeah, and nobody's selling to the secondary market. Like, you're not going to see the Georgia game of 2017 where they come in and fill out that stadium. It'll be green, to your point. That would be... It wouldn't be the highest ranked matchup in a long, long time, but just given that it's the first ever home playoff football game, that has to be the biggest game in Notre Dame history since 93, maybe 05 in the Bush Push, just given the rivalry. What are your thoughts on that? Is this going to be the biggest game?
I think it's bigger than the 05 Bush Push game. We thought the Ohio State game last year was as big as the 05 Bush Push game. They both had, at the time, we thought, national championship ramifications, but this one for sure would have national championship ramifications, because if you win, you move on, and if you lose, you don't get the Natty that year, and you don't even get a bowl game. Like, that is your bowl game. So
yep.
I think that game there's no game bigger than it. I think going back to when we put up the forward pass for the first time. Like, I don't think there's a bigger game in Notre Dame history than Notre Dame's first year of the college football playoff 12 team, a home game at Notre Dame Stadium. I don't see it.
I would have to say Florida State 93, just because it was 1v2 with the expectation that the winner was the national champion. Obviously, it didn't turn out that way. But you're right. It's a huge, huge game. And on top of that, it's Alabama, theoretically. And Notre Dame and Alabama, it's like, I view college football romantically. I view them as intersecting programs throughout history. Notre Dame is the traditional Northern power. Alabama is the traditional Southern power. They're 1 and 2 on the greatest of all time list, if the list has any validity at all. They've played for huge stakes. Notre Dame and Alabama have played with national championship implications 3 times and a college football semifinal. So, or maybe even 4 times because of 2012, right? You got the 73 game, and we also cost Alabama an Orange Bowl national championship as well back in the 70s. So it would be just so huge to have those two iconic blue blood programs that are so interestingly tied with each other in a playoff game in South Bend in December with snow on the ground. I don't know. You couldn't ask for it better. I would rather Alabama than I think almost any other opponent right now. Like Miami would be great, but I think that's a second round team.
Yeah, I like the allure of Alabama a lot too. Well, let's go through 1 through 10. Like, there's not a team on there that I wouldn't like playing at home. Like, you could give me Oregon.
Yeah.
Or any one of those teams at home would be fun. Oregon would be great because then we wouldn't have to worry about seeing red. It would be everyone being green. Like, problem solved.
Let me pull up the rankings here, and we can go through that. I like that idea. In the meantime, can you just talk about Penn State and what you think of them?
Oh, yeah. They came in ranked at 4, and I think we all know that's bullshit. They should absolutely be ranked number 1 because there's no better team in the country than the Nittany Lions and their whiteout atmosphere. Like, no one can go in there and win. Oh, wait, anyone can go in there and win because they suck. They don't do anything good on offense. They didn't score a single touchdown against Ohio State. And for whatever reason, the committee and voters think that, oh, they kept it close. No, they didn't. They never scored on offense one time. They had a defensive score that made it look like they scored. Otherwise, they would have gotten shut out by probably 21-0 instead of whatever the score was. Or maybe even 28, whatever that score would have been. It's not even close. And other than that, they haven't played anyone. Why are they? I don't know why they're up there. I think all of us that are fans of college football also agree we don't know why they're up there. They should be 14. SMU should be 4 if you're going to do anything crazy like that. But if you just, maybe that's what they did wrong. The one was supposed to be silent for the Penn State ranking, and they messed it up. They carried the one to SMU. I don't know what their math is. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know what Penn State has done to get ranked ahead of us, at least. But I know NIU's out there, but Texas A&M is also out there. Tim, let's go through the top 12 right now. 1, Oregon. Fair. 2, Ohio State. 3, we've got Texas, which is another ranking that makes no sense.
Let's sit on Ohio State for a second, because
okay,
if they didn't lose by 1 point to Oregon, they would be number 1. But if they beat Oregon by 1 point, would Oregon be number 2?
No, but Oregon hasn't played Penn State.
Who cares?
Well, it's a top 10 ranked win, right? So, as much as we don't value Penn State being where they're ranked, it's a quality win. So I don't think Oregon would. Maybe they would be the number 2, but I think Ohio State is deservingly the number 2. Do you disagree?
Oh, I don't think they should be number 2. I think they should probably be 3, maybe 4.
Okay, who should be 2 then, in your opinion?
Obviously Notre Dame. Why are we even here?
I love it.
But I was actually, that's about not my original thought was. My original thought was if anyone else was undefeated, they should be number 2. Oh wait, who are we playing this week?
Undefeated Army.
They should be number 2. I know they have or Indiana. Indiana should be number 2. They should be ahead of Ohio State. Ohio State should be behind them. You have a loss, wear it. We have a loss, we're wearing it. If you put Indiana at number 2 and then Ohio State at number 3, I would respect that much more. I just don't like Ohio State at number 2 because I feel like they're not the number 2 best team in the country, but because it's Ohio State, they just kind of get that spot because they've been consistently winning over the last decade or two. But I just don't like it.
Well, Texas is the one that doesn't make sense to me because they don't have a ranked win at all. Like, their whole claim to fame is that Georgia beat them. Like, and Georgia's a
don't get the
team.
good loss thing.
Yeah, like, I get it to the extent that, okay, I guess Texas has to be ranked ahead of Alabama because Alabama has 2 losses, Texas has 1. But I don't know why Texas has to be ranked ahead of Indiana or Notre Dame or Penn State even. Well, maybe not Penn State. But, yeah, I think the committee's kind of basing this a little bit off of preseason notions again, which is, is what it is. Hopefully they get it right at the end. And I think they are kind of waiting to reserve to see what the potential matchups would be before they finalize the rankings because I don't think they want to see a rematch at any point. But from Texas there, you've got Penn State 4, Indiana 5, Notre Dame 6. And then here's our potential opponents. You got Alabama 7, Miami 8, Ole Miss 9, Georgia 10, Tennessee 11, Boise State 12, and on the outside looking in, you got SMU at 13, BYU at 14, which makes no sense. BYU beat SMU, and then 15, you got Texas A&M. And there's a few teams who can win their conference to get in, so Colorado, Iowa State, Arizona State, Army, Tulane. I think South Carolina could theoretically get into the SEC championship game, but basically that's it. That's the playoff picture. So of those teams, are there any that you're afraid to play in the first round at home?
No, but I will make a bold statement. If we were to play Boise State in the first round, I'd rather go to their field because I love that blue field. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah. They're probably going to be the 12 seed, so we'd have to be the 5, which means Ohio State might have to lose to Indiana, which I don't think is impossible.
I think it's very impossible. I don't see a way or a world in which Indiana could pull up an upset against Ohio State, no matter who's on their team or who's coaching or what. You could have Ohio State on their reserves, and I think they would still win just because. Can you the Ohio State fans themselves might storm the field if they go down big enough and just murder every Indiana fan with pitchforks just to make sure they don't lose to Indiana and put that on their resume. Has Ohio State ever lost to Indiana? Ever?
I'm going to guess yes at some point, but not very often. Let me look
I'm
it
gonna
up
say
here on
no.
the side.
If it was before World War II. That's my guess.
All right, let's take bets on it. What do you think the win percentage for Indiana is in that series and when their last win came?
I'm going to say 1% in 33.
Okay, the all-time record is 79 wins for Ohio State, 12 wins for Indiana, and 5 ties. Indiana has a 150 percentage, so you're pretty close there. Like, they're batting 150. In terms of their last win, you're looking at 1990 was a draw, and then Indiana won in 1988.
Holy hell. So,
Yeah, Ohio State is one.
Wait, say that. When did they beat Ohio State again? Say that year.
1988.
So what you're saying is, if Indiana beats Ohio State, just give us the natty now?
Yeah, I think I might actually tweet something from the podcast right after this regarding that.
I think we just found a gem. I'm so
We
glad.
gotta sell
I'm
these
so glad.
t-shirts.
Hey, Hoosiers! I know I was just shit talking to you about 5 seconds ago, but I love you all. Make this happen for Notre Dame. Do it for us.
Yeah, it flips just like that. A little bit of voodoo magic, and all of a sudden we're on board with Indiana. Yeah, which of the SEC teams would you like to play the most, Tim? You got Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia, and potentially Tennessee.
I mean, if I could pick, I'd rather play like Vanderbilt or Auburn right now. Maybe not
I don't
Vanderbilt
think they're
because they
getting
actually
there.
upset Bama, but
Throw Texas into
man.
that mix as well, because if A&M beats the Longhorns, Texas would be in that group of borderline SEC teams.
Well, Texas would be a dub, pretty easily, and it would probably set off some higher stakes games when we just reschedule them for 28-29. If we were to beat them in a playoff game now, that would probably hype that game up in the future. But then you also have Bama coming in too. So I guess man, that's tough. I know Bama would be a tougher opponent, even though, they're not great this year. So, and it'd feel really good beating Amherst. So I'm going to go, but Texas would be easier. I don't know. Horns down would be a lot of fun. Let's go Texas. We've been insulting
Nice.
every team that comes into our stadium this year. Let's not stop now. Horns down's too easy. Let's do that.
Do you want to remind maybe the audience what we did to insult Florida State?
Oh yeah. That war chant you kept hearing over the broadcast, that was us starting it nonstop. I think we must have done the 1 and 9, 1 and 9, and probably 100 times. I know our usher has it on his phone. He took a video of us. I should get that from him.
That's awesome. Harold, the king.
Harold's a man.
I love that. For the folks listening, when I went to the game with Florida State and USC, it was with Tim through his season tickets. So big shout out to our boy there. Tim, do you want to get into Week 13 here and some game predictions?
Yeah. Let's let everyone know that I don't know ball and pick a bunch of wrong shit. Let's do it.
I love it. Well, for those listening, we've got a long-standing matchup here between Steve P-Wagon and myself. We've been doing this all season, and it is close. We'll release a graphic later today, but as things stand, Steve has got a 43-21 straight-up record, I am behind him by just 2 games, 41-23, and P-Wagon is 1 behind me at 40-24. Against the spread, P-Wagon and I are both 500, and Steve is 10 games above 500, so I think he's going to win that one. But here we head into the final stretch. It's going to be important, so we'll get Steve's picks later on that graphic, but for now, Tim and I will take it away. So, Tim, the first game, big noon kickoff. The Indiana Hoosiers, number 5, are going to the Ohio State Buckeyes, number 2. Or is Indiana number 4? Regardless, who do you got here? And the spread, by the way, is 13.5 points for the Buckeyes.
All right, so it's 13.5, and I just said Indiana wins, we win a natty, so this is flipping my pick. When I was thinking beforehand, about 7 minutes ago when I was talking shit about Indiana, I thought there was no way. Now there's no way they don't win. So give me Indiana to win by 13.5.
I love it. I'm taking the Buckeyes. I'm not falling for that one. However, I will take the Hoosiers to cover 13.5. I think is too much for them. So give me Buckeyes, but I will take Indiana on the spread. Second game is a big one. It has huge implications in the Big 12 and the potential champion there. BYU just lost their first game. They're going to Arizona State, who just upset a team, and the line is 3 points in favor of the Sun Devils. What do you got, Tim?
I think BYU is not terrible. I don't know much about the Sun Devils this year. I have not been paying attention to them because they're in the middle of a desert, and why would I? But I do remember that they pissed me off pretty darn good in 2013 or 12 or whatever when they beat us down there. And I think they're going to do that to the Mormons next because they hate Christians. So give me the Devils.
I'm with you. I got Arizona State mainly just because of the home environment. They're also on a bit of a heater right now. So I'll like the Sun Devils. Because it's 3, I'll take them to cover the spread. But that's going to be one hell of a game. I could see it going either way. So, third game, Tim, not Steve. We've got a big one in the Big Ten in the sense that it's 2 5-5 teams that are wildly inconsistent. The Nebraska Cornhuskers are facing at home the Wisconsin Badgers. I believe that line is only 1.5 points for the home team, Nebraska. Tim, who are you taking there, and who do you like money line?
I'll tell you what, I love Dylan Raiola so much. I don't know why, I just do. One of my good friends is a Cornhusker fan, so I'm always rooting for him. And that being said, Luke Fickell is kind of a fickle coach in these games in the Big Ten, so I've got to go with the Cornhuskers.
This is a tough one. I was tossing and turning on it, but I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to take Nebraska at home, mainly because Wisconsin's away results have not been good. They kind of suck on the road. And Nebraska at home, it's a good environment. That's somewhat of a rivalry game, and I just kind of like Matt Rule in that environment. So I'm with you. Taking Nebraska to cover. You're taking them to cover as well, right? 1.5 points.
Yep, taking them to cover. And if it was a women's volleyball game, I'd take them to demolish them. It's not. It's a football game, so
they have a great women's volleyball team. Okay, to the SEC in a game that is a little bit. The line's a little closer than I expected. Texas A&M is on the road to Auburn, and they're only 2.5 point favorites. The Aggies. Who do you like there, and why?
I don't know why this is only 2.5, because Auburn has a really, really good quarterback next year. They don't have anyone this year. So I don't know why this is 2.5. Auburn has shown every week that they cannot play ball to any kind of level of integrity. Give me A&M to cover big. I don't care what the situation is for A&M. They've shown that they can hang in there and they can play tough. They had a little bit of a heartbreaker against South Carolina, but they're not an undefeated team. They're going to have 1, maybe 2. I don't think this is the 2. Auburn's just too bad.
I agree with everything you said there. I think Texas A&M is going to blow them out. Give me the Aggies and the points as well. So we head to the final one, Tim, for this week. And it's a rivalry game. It's their second rival. It's not their most important rival. But the USC Trojans and the UCLA Bruins are doing battle at the Rose Bowl. So UCLA is the home team. And USC, if they win this game, they become bowl eligible. And if they lose this game, they have to beat Notre Dame to be bowl eligible. So, Tim, who are you taking there in this rivalry game that always produces unexpected results?
Oh, the results are usually pretty expected. USC always wins. But that being said, I don't know, something about turquoise and gold, kind of blue and gold, is kind of sticking out in my mind right now. I don't know why, but I have a little bit of faith in the UCLAs. That's how I call it because I'm an idiot. I think UCLA is going to take down the Trojans here, and just because if they do, I don't think that they're going to be. That's kind of a good hypothetical to talk about for a second. If UCLA does beat USC, does that inspire USC to play harder against Notre Dame or less hard? Because if they win, they have to beat Notre Dame to get a shitty bowl game. Like, I'd rather just not go. Or do they just lay down? Like, they're just like, all right, listen, I don't even want to try hard to try and go to the Myrtle Beach Bowl or whatever, or the Bahamas Bowl, whatever it is. Like, just keep me out of it.
It's a good question. I'm not really sure what the answer is, but are you taking UCLA?
I'm taking UCLA.
UCLA over USC.
Yep. I was talking to a couple of Vikings.
First, on my end of things, I'm going to take USC, and I'll take them to cover. I think they are going to want to upset Notre Dame's season, and I think they're motivated to finish off the year strong. Also, UCLA kind of sucks balls, and USC's been better than their record suggests this year. So I'm going Trojans, you're going Bruins, and that will wrap up the Week 13 predictions.
Well, Dylan, I have breaking news. Okay. I can't believe it. This train car has a top bunk, and I didn't notice it till just now when I was looking up. And there's a blanket up there that I'm definitely going to grab after this podcast.
We love it. We love a blanket train podcast episode.
There's a place for my suitcase up there. Oh, that would have made this a lot more comfortable the last 4 hours. All right, sorry. Breaking news. It's cut out. Back to your regularly scheduled programming.
Just like Newt Rockney, you're gonna sleep on a train in New York. Also, for the audience, you live in Rochester, New York. Basically, I'm guessing that's where you got on the train.
Yep.
And it's like I've taken this train ride. As you know, it's like a 7 to 9 hour train ride to New York City. Like, how big is this fucking state? Like, I didn't realize how massive New York is.
Yeah, it's about like a 5 to 7 hour drive to New York if you were to do that. So I'd rather just take the train and just chill. Plus, I don't want to be like, if we were tailgating in New York City, I would have brought my truck, but I'm pretty comfortable driving my truck. I've been driving it for years. I've driven in New York City for years, but that was in a little convertible where I could squeeze in places. I wouldn't have fun driving my Warthog through the streets of New York.
That is true. So you're not tailgating. Let's talk about what you're going to be doing, Steve or Tim. I got it. Give us your rundown of what's happening this weekend and what you're looking forward to doing.
So I recently got into bowling, like this last winter, I think. Joined a bowling league, and I got a bowling ball. And I looked at the scheduling for Notre Dame events. The first thing that I could do is there's a Bolo-Ramo thing tonight at 7 o'clock, right after I get off the train. And I've got no one around me to hang out with tonight, so I'm thinking about doing that. And now I'm thinking about it. I'm kind of pissed I didn't bring my bowling ball, because that would have just been fun to wheel through New York with a bowling ball for no reason. So doing that, and then tomorrow there's a drum circle. There's a drum circle at like 3 o'clock or 3:30, one of those two times. I think it's 3 to 3:30 in Times Square, or in Central Park. Gonna hit that up. Then Dr. Abby and Big Al are there. They're coming into New York for the game. Gonna hang out with them. We're going straight to WoHop 17 for some absolutely greasy, disgusting, delicious Chinese food. I miss that. If you ever go to New York and you want good Chinese food, go to WoHop 17. It's just literally an underground Chinese restaurant. You literally have to go downstairs to get down underground to get into this restaurant. It is so good. I recommend the Cat. Then after that, we're probably gonna go watch some Friday night football games, maybe, or go to some bars or something. I don't really know. But Saturday's the day. Concert with a band in Times Square at noon. Got to go watch the Ohio State-Indiana game and watch Indiana win because that's what I called is going to happen, and it's totally going to happen. I'm not second-guessing my choice at all. And then after that, we're going to head towards Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, somewhere near the Yankee Stadium, hit some bars up there till about 5:30 maybe. Then we'll head to the stadium. Some guy I met at the backer after the Louisville game, we blacked out together. He's been texting me. He's got a spot by the Bronx that I might check out. It's like a little speakeasy, I guess. I take his word for it. Sounds sketch, but I believe him. You could totally trust a stranger you met one night and blacked out with from Philly. That means you're bros for life. And then we're going to watch from 6 to 7, watch whatever pregame shit they got lined up in Yankee Stadium, because you know there's going to be some sort of light show to create a blue-gray sky. It's going to be pitch black. You know, they got something planned to do something. They're going to do that Horsemen walkout. We're going to see Love, Riley Leonard, Jared Price, and I don't know, who's the biggest guy we got on the team. Put a fat guy on a horse, and they're going to come out on horses out of the Yankee Stadium tunnel, and we're going to shit all over the Yankee Stadium bleacher or dugout. And then we're going to watch Notre Dame kick the shit out of Army for 3.5 hours. So that's my plan.
Well, that's a great segue. Let's talk about Army. Do you have any thoughts initially on that opponent of ours?
I've watched a lot of their games this year, actually, and they've been consistently good. They've had some struggles on offense, especially against North Texas. I don't know why that game was so hard for them, but that was the one that I think all of us were watching. Like, come on, you got to win this game. Like, you got to win. You just got to beat North Texas to be undefeated. Come face us. You can do this. They haven't really played anyone tough, though, so. And the conference that they're in, I'm not saying it's a bad conference, but I'm not saying it's a good conference. So I'm really not concerned. They're going to play us tough. They're going to play for Army. This is the biggest game Army's played in a very long time. That's not Navy. And so I don't think they're going to hold anything back. So expect some punches. They'll probably, honestly, they might be the team that scores more than 18 points on us for the first time, or since whoever did it last, Louisville, I think. But our offense, if we put up 35, which I'm sure we will do, that we win this game easily.
I tend to agree with you here. I got a little bit of a scouting report, or at least a little bit of a breakdown to kind of pull up here. Bryson Daly is their quarterback, and he's also their leading rusher. Like the Navy quarterback, he is great in QBR, the metric that's based on expected points added. He's 8th in the country with 82.8 QBR. Now, some of that is opponent adjusted, but again, they haven't really played anybody like the Navy quarterback. So I'm not overly worried from a passing perspective, but he is their lead rusher. Army tends to run a more traditional triple option than what we saw from Navy. And they're having a good year against the competition they played, which is very little. Like, the best opponent they played was East Carolina, who's barely 500. They beat North Texas 14-3. Not a great competition this year, but you can only play to what you got. So Army's got 35.4 points per game. Notre Dame's at 38, so very comparable on a broad level there. Here's a stat, Tim, that I'm really concerned about. Army is above 53% on third down success rate this year. That's really, really good because they're getting obviously third and short downs. Notre Dame, we talked about this, 38%, which is just horrid for where we want to be. So that's one advantage I think Army's got in this game, is they're going to be a better third down team. In terms of their offensive makeup, they got 85 passing yards a game and 335 rushing yards per game on average, about 420 of offense. Again, traditional triple option. They'll mix in some passing plays, but this is going to be a team that's going to grind us out. They've only had 5 field goal attempts all year, and I thought that was a little weird that they've only taken 5, and they're 5 for 5. So this is a team that's going to try to punch the ball in. And
I got to talk about field goals.
We'll
I'm
get to
going to
field
say
goals.
that No, I'm talking about this game, field goals. I think there's going to be less than 1.5 field goals attempted all game.
Well, because we don't have a field goal kicker, so that you might be
And
right
neither
on
do
that.
they, apparently. They don't kick it, so
They
take
don't,
that
but they're
money line, boys.
100% on when they do.
Yeah, they'll make it. They'll make the only field goal all game.
In terms of defense, Army has tied for first in the country in points per game allowed with Ohio State at only 10.3. For reference, Notre Dame is third at 11.4, so this is a team that is not giving up a lot of points, and they're not giving up a lot of rushing yards. They're third in rushing yards allowed per game at 82.9. That's Notre Dame's strength, is running yards offensively, so that's going to be a matchup to watch. Line of scrimmage, both sides of the ball, who's going to win. And defensively, 14 interceptions for Army this year. They're not easy to throw on. Notre Dame has got 15 interceptions, so very tight D, very well-coached team all around. They're disciplined. It's going to be a typical triple threat game. It's a better version of what we've seen with Navy in the recent years. But still, ESPN's FPI is giving Notre Dame an 87.7% chance of victory, and I kind of find it hard to disagree with. What are your thoughts on all that, Tim, and anything to add?
So my thoughts on it are, yes, all our stats and all our lines are comparable. One thing that stands out is, you know who else is really good at third down conversions and is one of the best in the country? NIU. So that is my biggest fear, is if we can't get off the field on third down half the time, we might be in trouble. The other things that I'm thinking of is, yeah, those stats are all comparable, but we've been against Power 5 opponents most of the time, and they haven't. So they haven't seen this level of skill, size, talent, all of it. So I would say cut all that in half of what you're expecting when you say the numbers out loud. But numbers also don't lie, so you gotta give it some respect. I can't believe they only kicked 5 field goals all year. That's crazy. And I don't know, what's their red zone percentage? That's the one thing.
I don't have it offhand, but I'm guessing it's pretty good.
Yeah, because if they're not kicked field goals, that means they're probably scoring touchdowns. And our red zone percentage is off the charts, I'm pretty sure. So as long as we don't keep them, if we keep them on their side of the field and get off the field in third down, this is obviously going to be a pretty easy game. Doesn't matter what our offense does. I do want to say, though, the one stat that you didn't say is that their completion percentage, and I don't think it's that good. And so what I'm thinking is, who do you think drops more balls this game? Notre Dame, Army, or Aaron Judge in the World Series?
Aaron Judge in the World Series is my Red
That's
Sox
what I'm
answer
thinking.
to that. You're spot on there. Yankee Stadium has seen a lot of drops, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was a few more on Saturday. Like the Navy game, I think Army might make a lot of unforced errors just because Notre Dame's so disciplined and plays so hard. Notre Dame plays very fast, very aggressive. But then again, Notre Dame's receivers are struggling to catch the ball this year, so I could see both teams having those issues. But Aaron Judge is the answer.
Yeah, I'm also thinking about that now, too. Like, Notre Dame's going to force turnovers just by hitting hard, running over people, force the quarterback to throw quicker, maybe making the running back try to make it one too many cuts, and he's leaving the ball exposed. Any of these things can happen. It's the one thing that Army does have is they've got weather discipline. This is going to be a cold game. We have weather discipline, too, but this is 45 minutes from West Point. This is 8 hours. How long is the flight from Indiana to New York? Probably like 3-4 hours, I'm guessing. So, and it's the same kind of weather, but it's going to be a really shitty field because Yankee Stadium doesn't know how to make a football field, which they shouldn't, because it's a fucking baseball stadium. We shouldn't be playing football games at baseball stadiums. It's stupid. All right, what if you want to know why? Ask the Oakland people why they don't play football games at baseball stadiums anymore.
Yeah, well, they don't have the baseball team anymore either, so or football team. Both are going to Vegas. They must hate the city of Las Vegas to lose both your teams to them.
Yeah, and I think that's just a sign, like, because they played too many football games in a baseball stadium, that Yankees are probably going to fold as a franchise soon.
I would hope so. That's them in Michigan. I think both should just fold.
The Yankees are going to move to Michigan. They're going to move to East Lansing. Or sorry, not East Lansing. What? Ann Arbor.
Ann Arbor. Yep, that's it. Tim, before we get into our final predictions, anything you want to rant about or talk before we wrap this bad boy up?
I'm really trying to figure out how I'm going to get up to this bunk bed. I think it slides down, which is slightly terrifying because it could definitely impale my skull if it slipped. The train ride, I got to tell you guys, this is kind of cool. I paid a little extra for a roomette, it's called. It's not a full room. I'm staring at my toilet while I'm sitting on my bed, and it's less than an inch away from me. But it is very cozy. It's like a prison cell for solitary. But I get electricity, and my meals delivered to me are actually good. I don't think they're free. So all in all, I highly recommend taking the train, especially if you don't like flying. If I were to try and fly to New York, it'd be a 45-minute flight, but I'd have to get there an hour early to get through TSA, and then use a taxi on the airport for another hour. Then it'd take you an hour to get off. It takes you another 30 minutes to get your bag and get a taxi. So all in all, it's about half a time to the train, but it's also probably twice the cost and definitely 4 times the aggravation. I know a lot of people are traveling this time of year coming up. Look into your trains. They're actually pretty cool.
Trains are cool. And where is it bringing you? I'm guessing Penn Station?
Well, this part about trains sucks. I've been sitting here in Albany since about 2:30, and this train's not moving again until 4:10. I don't know why. I think they're changing cars or something. But my power came back on, so that's good. And yeah, that's a downside when trains just sit still.
Sure. Where's your final destination, though? Did I get that right?
Yeah, I think it's Penn. I don't even know. I should probably look it up since I gotta figure out where I'm going in about 2 hours. I'm pretty sure it's Penn Station.
Yeah, that's where I got off.
Yeah, that's definitely Penn Station. Right
really
under
cool
the
'cause,
Madison Square Garden for those
yeah,
that don't know that.
So I was just gonna say Madison Square. I got off my first ever time in New York. I get off Penn Station, and the first thing I see is Madison Square Garden. And as a hockey, boxing, sports fan, that was the coolest fucking thing I could have experienced is Madison Square Garden right away. So, yeah.
One more rant. Rant. Because I haven't actually talked about this to anyone yet. Let's stop talking about Jake Paul boxing matches like they mean anything. Let's not even hype them up. Let's watch them. Let's not talk about it at all on the internet unless we're bitching about how Netflix can't run this live stream. I don't think I said one social media thing about the fight until right now. Just stop. No one cares. Jake Paul's fighting some other old guy coming soon. Jake Paul's fighting a woman. Who gives a shit? Jake Paul could fight whoever he wants. We don't have to talk about it. If you want to watch it and hope he gets his ass whooped, I'm doing the same thing. But we don't have to talk about it every day for a week coming up like it means anything to anyone in the world. It's like
Jake Paul versus Katie Taylor next. Let's do it.
I'll take it.
Here's the thing with the Jake Paul fights, guys. He's fought one actual boxer who was it was Tommy Fury, Tyson Fury's half-brother. He's like a prospect. He's not like a real professional boxer at a high level, and he beat Jake Paul quite comfortably. So those boxing matches aren't real because when he fights a boxer, he loses. Granted, Mike Tyson was a boxer, but he's also 60 fucking years old, and he looked like he almost
died.
So.
He almost died 3 months ago. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, that's another thing. So, those fights aren't real until he fights a real boxer. But I think he at least brings attention to the sport, which is not a bad thing because boxing could, I think, use a little revitalization these days. Because, in my opinion, it is better than MMA. I like UFC. UFC's fallen off. Boxing, I think, is a more pure sport. I think it's a higher technical level. I appreciate the mixed martial arts aspect of it. Like I said, I'm a fan. But it's a jack of all trades, master of none. It's just a little sloppier. Boxing, one trade, you're an expert at it. You can see it in the ring. I prefer boxing, but, that's just me.
I disagree just because there's more technical aspects to MMA, but maybe perfecting the ones that count in boxing versus having to perfect, like you said, everything. It's probably makes it a little more high-end talent versus high-end talent more fun to watch. If you're a fan of the sport, I prefer MMA myself. Sure. But to your point, and to the point I'm about to make, I think MMA is more of a street fight than anything else in the world. But in a street fight, I think you should have access to weapons. And if you've never seen medieval MMA, it's awesome. They have swords and shields and shit. and they beat the hell out of each other like they're actually fighting in the middle of a war. And that's fun. It's on YouTube. That get drunk or high and watch an hour of that, and you'll wake up the next day like, oh my God, that was awesome. Don't watch it sober.
Reminds me, like, during COVID, I was watching BattleBots a lot, where, like, people would make robots and fight them. And I was like, what am I doing with my life? But also it was COVID, so it didn't matter. That shit was cool.
All right, let's get into game predictions. My rants are over.
Okay. Tim, here's what's going to happen. Army's going to chew up a lot of clock, and with the new clock rules, it's going to make harder for Notre Dame to score. So I have Notre Dame winning 33-10. They'll cover the 14.5-point spread. Army's not going to score much on us, but we're not going to put up an outrageous amount of points like we did Navy.
I don't want to guess the exact score, so I'm going to go off a little bit for Army. I think they're going to score 18, but I don't.
You have to.
I don't want to be right. I don't want to be right, so I'm going to say 19. I'm going to say they scored 19 points because that's so rare.
Okay.
And then I'm going to go Notre Dame. I think we just moved the ball too much on them. I think we still put up at least 35. But what's the spread again? It's
14.5 points.
14.5. Oh, I was way off. All right, so 14. Carry the 1. So I'm going to say 38. So that way we cover the spread. I think we're going to
38 to 19.
Yeah. Did I do that math right?
That's a 19-point spread. Fair enough. You did it right. You got Notre Dame covering there.
One more thing I got to talk about, because I know Steve's score is going to be the same as yours, as always. A few weeks ago, you guys were talking about how Steve was so perfect on all his picks week in and week out. And I was mowing my lawn, and I stopped, and I was like, he's going to get every one of these picks wrong this week because you have jinxed the shit out of him, opening him up. And I literally wrote them all down, and I did the opposite of all of them, and I won good money. So thank you, Steve. I did win money listening to your picks.
Oh, that's awesome. It was funny because ever since we said that, he's been on a downswing. Like, I've nearly caught him. So, good call. Steve's magic is catching up to him. We'll see what he does this week. But I think that's it. Anything else for you to say before I end this?
I hope this train starts moving soon. They said 4:10, so we got 4 minutes till we start chuka-chucking. That's all I really...
All right, I'll finish it off then, Tim, with a little passage, of course.
Oh, did I mute myself when I said all that shit?
No, I muted you because I could hear myself in the background.
Oh, well, let me say one more thing then.
Okay, go ahead.
If you do get a roomette, do keep in mind that the bathroom is right here and it's very convenient to use, but also remember that if you shit, the smell doesn't go anywhere because you're in a little square. So, something to keep in mind. All right, go on.
Appreciate that. It was 100 years ago in October when Army and Notre Dame met at Yankee Stadium. Notre Dame was taking their traveling band, their traveling act, as Knute Rockne did, to the cities. And at that time, Army was one of the best teams in the country. It was a game Army was supposed to win, and it was a game that Army had national championship aspirations for. But what happened was an undefeated Notre Dame upset Army 13-7 en route of their first ever national championship under Knute Rockne, and a birth nickname was given. After that game, a sports writer for the Grantland Rice wrote the following. Outlined against a blue-gray October sky, the four horsemen rode again. In dramatic lore, they are known as famine, pestilence, destruction, and death. These are only Alice's. Their real names I can't even fucking bother with that one. Miller, Crowley, and Layden. They formed the crest of the South Bend Cyclone, before which another fighting Army team was swept over the precipice at the Polo Grounds this afternoon. At 55,000 spectators peered down upon the bewildering panorama spread out upon the green plain below. First of all, nobody writes like that anymore, and that's a damn shame. That's poetry. Second of all, I apologize for missing the first horseman's name. I'm not great with names. But third of all, history is something that matters to Notre Dame. It's something that matters to all of you. And this is one of our great traditions, is the Four Horsemen, the namesake of this podcast. and one of the early lures of this deep, deep sport that is college football. So on Saturday, we're going to be reigniting that in what is a very important game. Army, Notre Dame, Yankee Stadium in New York, the way it should be. Two teams that are ranked. And the only thing left to say is, go Irish.
Go Irish.